All right, welcome back to the Midnight Collective podcast. This is Eddie once again, and wherever you are right now, whether you're driving to work, taking a walk, or just getting through your day, I appreciate you spending this time with me. If this is your first time tuning in with us, thanks for giving this a shot. And if you've been here before, welcome back, and I'm genuinely glad that you're here. You know, I was thinking this morning about how easy it is to walk around and kind of pretend that everything's fine. How many of us do that on a day-to-day basis? We get asked a dozen times a day, how are you doing? And we say, oh, I'm good, or it's fine, or, just another day. I'm very guilty of that, even when we're nowhere close to good, especially us guys, men in general, because we've been told that admitting we're struggling somehow makes us weak, or that talking about our feelings isn't something that we should be doing. But the truth is, carrying around that kind of weight gets really heavy. It starts affecting our relationships, our jobs, our health, everything. And a lot of times, we don't even realize how deep we've been buried in it until it comes rushing out in ways we've never expected. We start lashing out. We start being angry. We start talking and doing things that we would have never done before. So today, we're going to get really honest about something that too many of us are quietly dealing with. Something we might joke about or brush off, but rarely discuss openly. And definitely not enough. Male depression. Yeah, we're going to go there. And yes, this is somewhat uncomfortable, but it's personal. But that's exactly why we need to talk about it. Because pretending it's not there doesn't make it go away. It just makes us feel more alone. So, let's dive into it. Let me just be really honest with you right now. This episode isn't going to be quick. It's not going to be an easy listen. It's not polished. It's not neat. And honestly, it really shouldn't be. But it's incredibly important. And I promise you one thing, whatever you're feeling right now, you're definitely not alone in it. Here's something that caught my attention recently. You might have heard that statistically, women get diagnosed with depression more often than men. And while that might sound straightforward, it doesn't actually tell the full story. What it really means is that guys aren't getting diagnosed as often. Not because we aren't struggling, but because we're not talking about it. We're not reaching out. I mean, half of us, half the time, we don't even recognize what's going on within ourselves. And why is that? Because male depression doesn't always look like the stereotype. It doesn't always look like sadness or tears. It can look like frustration, anger, exhaustion, or just numbness. And we've gotten pretty good at hiding it. All of it. We've mastered suffering quietly, wearing that familiar, yeah, I'm good, mask, and pushing through until we really just can't anymore. Here's the truth though. Silence doesn't protect us. It isolates us. It makes things harder. And if you've ever found yourself nodding your way through conversations, guilty, smiling on the outside while just trying to hold it together on the inside, trust me, that's a very mutual feeling. And if you're that guy who's always showing up for everybody else, checking in on everybody around you, yet nobody seems to notice that you're struggling, I see you. And if you've ever found yourself thinking something's off, I don't really know exactly what it is, and I don't even know how to start talking about it, listen, this is not a sign of weakness. You're not broken. You're just human. And you've been carrying way more than you should have to carry alone. And that's exactly why we're here talking about this today. Let's start setting some of that weight down, piece by piece. We're going to unpack male depression, how it shows up in our daily lives, what it actually looks like, and most importantly, what we can do to start dealing with it. And I'll be the first one to say, that feeling of something off, not knowing exactly what it is and how to start talking about it, that's something that I personally go through many times over. I have days, weeks, even hours, where I just don't know what's going on. Things are heavy, things feel hard, things feel like they're too much, and at the same time, it's nothing. There's nothing that I can pinpoint in that and say, it's this that's making me feel this way. It's that that's bringing me down. Because at the end of the day, it's really just the feeling of it, the overwhelming sense of sadness, the overwhelming sense of not being good enough, not knowing enough, not being able to manage it better than I should be. And the hard part about that is that there's nothing wrong with not knowing or not being able to convey to somebody else or even to yourself what you're going through, how you're going through it. Sometimes you just need to sit down, breathe, and just let it pass. But this is why this conversation is important. Because at the end of the day, male depression is going to be there. And there's no way to fully overcome it. But there's always going to be a way to battle it. So with that, we're going to get straight into one of the biggest reasons we avoid talking about this kind of stuff. The stigma around men's mental health. And you already know what I'm talking about. It's like we've all been handed this imaginary guy handbook with these unspoken rules we've carried our whole lives. Rub some dirt in it. Real men don't cry. And if you can't handle it, you're weak. Personally, one that I used to get was, are you a man or a mouse? And if I ever went and said, I'm a mouse, they'd make me go, squeak, squeak. So things like that, long-term effects, right? But my personal favorite, aside from that one, is when somebody asks you if you're good, and the only thing that you ever say is, yeah, I'm good. And it's like we've inherited this script, passed down generation after generation, that's told us emotions are something to be feared. That being vulnerable means you're somehow less of a man. That softness is weakness. And asking for help, forget it. That's off limits completely. But here's what nobody ever really told us. That the script is outdated. It's not just broken, it's dangerous. I mean, it's literally hurting us more than it's helping us ever. Think about it. That mindset traps us in these silent, lonely battles, right? We get convinced that real strength means shouldering our struggles completely alone. But that's not how we were built. Nobody was meant to be shouldering their burdens without support. And yet that's exactly what we keep trying to do. We bottle it all up. We smile and nod and say, I'm fine. And here's the thing about depression. It doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes depression looks like anger. It shows up when we snap at people closest to us or feel irritated over the smallest things. I would say that that's probably my biggest thing is that when I'm depressed, I'm very snappy. I could be fine one minute and the next minute, the smallest things are making me upset. It also can look like shutting down, pulling away, losing interest in stuff that we once loved. It can mean staying awake at night, scrolling aimlessly, or sleeping all day to avoid facing what's really bothering us. And maybe most dangerously, sometimes depression looks like everything's perfectly fine. You're going to work, you're hitting the gym, hanging out with friends, laughing at jokes, but deep down, you're disconnected. You feel numb, distant, almost like you're just watching your own life from a distance. And I don't know how many of you guys have ever felt that, but that out-of-body experience is something that you can't really describe. You're just standing behind yourself, watching yourself, being removed from life in general. But that's exactly why depression in men is so tricky. And it's dangerous. We're so good at hiding it that we even start believing our own cover stories. And that's the truth about this is that I'm fine isn't always fine. So if you've been feeling off lately, if you've felt afraid or even embarrassed to put a name on it, let me be the one to tell you right now that it's okay to admit it. It's okay to say you're not okay. That's not weakness. It's honesty. And admitting it, that's your step one. Okay, so now let's focus on something that kind of goes under the radar. High-functioning depression. Honestly, this is something that's tough because I feel like it's one of the most misunderstood parts of men's mental health. Think about it. On paper, you're doing everything right. You're showing up at work. You're hitting the gym. You're spending your time with your kids, paying your bills on time. You're even making people laugh and helping friends out and being the guy everybody can depend on. From the outside looking in, you're crushing it. You look like you've got everything handled. But on the inside, you're just getting by. You're drained. You feel disconnected from happiness, from purpose, from feeling genuinely alive. Life starts to feel more like an endless loop on autopilot. And worst of all, nobody knows. Nobody notices. Nobody comes to you and asks, "Hey, are you doing okay?" and actually knows what you're feeling. It's because you're functioning. And the problem with being high functioning is that people are rarely going to check on you. Why would they? You seem fine. And when nobody checks on you, you start convincing yourself you probably don't need or deserve to be checked on anyway. That's the danger of being a high functioning depressive person. It tricks us into thinking our pain isn't valid unless we're visibly falling apart. But let me be clear on something. You don't have to collapse to deserve care. Just because you're handling everything doesn't mean you aren't hurting. Just because you're productive doesn't mean you're actually okay. And just because you're the strong one doesn't mean you're not silently struggling. Your struggle is real. Your pain is valid. And you shouldn't have to hit rock bottom to feel like you're worthy of support. You don't have to keep pretending. You don't have to earn help. You deserve to be supported now, exactly the way you are. Okay, so let's kind of take the pace down a little bit then. I want to talk about something that we don't hear nearly as much. And it's something that a lot of people don't really have. It's brotherhood. And I'm not talking about the casual, like surface level, "Hey, what's up, bro?" type of stuff. I mean that real, like, ride or die connection that you would have with somebody. The ones that hold space for us when life gets really messy. The kind that says, "Hey, I'm here," not just when you're winning, but especially when you feel like you're falling apart. Because here's the deal. Depression thrives in isolation. And as guys, as men, isolating ourselves is almost second nature. When things get tough, we retreat. We run away. We go quiet. We disconnect. And I'll tell you firsthand, that's never really going to be the answer. And we start telling ourselves things like, "Nobody would really get it," or "I don't want to burden anyone with my problems." But I'll say, that's a lie that we have to tell ourselves. And it's actually kind of a dangerous one. The reality is we need each other. Not just for casual hangouts or good laughs, but for genuine, meaningful conversation. We need brotherhood that runs deeper than hobbies or shared interests. We need genuine connections that you can check in on somebody and they're going to actually tell you what's going on. And I'm talking about the friend who looks you in the eye and says, "How are you really doing?" The person who doesn't really flinch or get uncomfortable when you say, "Honestly, I'm having a rough time." If you have someone in your life like that, hold on to them. Appreciate them. Because if you don't, become that person. Start those conversations. Send that message. Pick up the phone. Ask deeper, meaningful, and sometimes uncomfortable questions. Because when men start showing up for each other in honest ways, in real ways, consistently, with intention and compassion, we don't just heal ourselves, we start to heal generations. And speaking of generations, let's talk about the legacy. Because everything we've been unpacking today, the vulnerability, the openness, the healing, it's not just for us. It doesn't just stop here. It creates ripples. It echoes through time, for lack of a better word. How we handle our struggles and how we talk about our feelings, how we face the hard moments when life isn't picture perfect, those things become the blueprint for the guys coming up behind us. Your son, your nephew, your younger brother, or your friends, they're watching. They're paying attention. Not to what you say, but to what you do when life gets tough. Most of us grew up in that old school playbook, be a man. Don't talk about it. Don't feel. Definitely don't cry. Just keep going no matter what. But that playbook, it's not about strength. It's about survival. It's outdated. It's broken. And honestly, it never really worked. But here's the powerful part of that. We get to write a new script. Imagine a world where boys grow up knowing it's okay to cry. It's okay to talk about what hurts. It's okay to not be okay. Imagine a generation that doesn't have to spend years unlearning all the harmful things we are working to unlearn right now. That's how real change happens. Not through big speeches or empty promises, but by modeling it, by actually living it, by showing up day after day. So if you've been quietly doing the work, facing your own darkness, having uncomfortable conversations, trying your best to break these cycles, let me remind you something right now. You're building a legacy. You're rewriting the story. You're breaking generational cycles. You're creating a healthier, stronger foundation for everyone who follows you. And that kind of strength, that quiet, courageous strength, is exactly what the world needs more of. And so with that, that's going to be it for today, for this episode of the Midnight Collective. I know this was heavy, and this was a lot. So if you're still here with me, I just want to say thank you for showing up, for being willing to sit in the discomfort, for doing the work that really matters. Because the more we talk openly about this kind of stuff, the less power it has over us. And the more we normalize conversations, the more we actually start to heal. Remember, you're not alone, and you've never been alone. And if today's episode hit home for you, do me a favor. Send me a message. Better yet, share this episode with somebody that you think may need to hear it. And let's keep this kind of conversation going. Make sure you're following the podcast. And if you could leave a rating or review, that would mean a lot. If you're not already doing so, go follow us on Instagram at midnight_brand. Whether it's a question, a story, or something you've been carrying quietly, send me a message. It definitely matters to me. You never know who else is out there that needs to hear exactly what you have to say. So thanks again for being part of the collective. Take care of yourself, check in on people, and as always, stay strong, be good to yourself. I'll catch you next time.